South Africa is asking several African governments to reimburse it for the cost of repatriating tens of thousands of their citizens. The request follows the deportation or voluntary return of more than 80,000 immigrants amid protests and violence over illegal migration. South Africa's Home Affairs Department says it spent nearly $18 million on accommodation, transport, and related expenses. Written requests for compensation have been sent to Malawi, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. Home Affairs Director General Tommy Makode describes the costs as unforeseen and unavoidable. However, Nigeria's federal government denies receiving any request from South Africa for reimbursement of costs related to the repatriation of Nigerians. What do you have to say to these South Africans, Professor Aura?
At this point, we should ask, what does South Africa want?
Money.
Money from who?
Apparently.
Nigeria, Malawi, Ethiopia.
Interestingly, there are different agencies, arms of government in South Africa on this matter. Some of them have been really very reasonable, in their comments, in their approach. For instance, when the foreign minister came here, the way he spoke about how Africans assisted them to come out of apartheid and all of that, and how much debt they owe the rest of Africa, and how, they would do a lot more to protect, foreigners in the country. That was heartwarming. And then the ambassador to Nigeria, Bob, who is my very good friend, he even spoke about early warning system that they are trying to put in place so that when these things, before these things break out and escalate, they'll try and nip it in the bud so that we don't have this kind of embarrassing, mafia gangs and warlords moving from one household to another, breaking them to say immigrants must leave. Those are heartwarming. When I heard those, I said, maybe at last South Africa is now on the right path to, effectively handling this matter. But when I now heard this demand for reimbursement and all that, I mean, it will, of course, I'm sure South African government will be living in a world of illusion if it thinks that any African state, where they are already angry about what they did to their nationals in South Africa, to now start reimbursing South Africa. South Africa should please stop doing this kind of, coming up with this kind of ideas that are, at best, ludicrous.
It's called xenophobic diplomatic tactics. I don't know what that category is in international relations. Opeyemi.
I think it is unfortunate because asking African countries to pay for their repatriation negates, to your point, some of the diplomatic overtures that they've made. So it then goes back to your question, what do they really want? I mean, is it, and it's not just about money. I mean, it's clear, obviously, it's not just about Africans being in their country. It's about South African elections coming up and ANC's challenges. But that ANC then wants to continue to reinforce that by then asking for money for repatriation. And I think, the best answer, as they say, silence is the best answer for a fool. So if none of the countries answer them, maybe the message will be clearer.
Well, maybe Nigeria should answer them and say that the close to $60 billion that we spent during the struggle for liberation of South Africa during apartheid should also be returned to Nigeria.
They didn't ask us.
They should pay.
No,
why should we spend money getting them liberated?
No, but we shouldn't. Because we did it because we believed in it. The fact that they're behaving badly.
They owe us more than we owe them.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then, in any case, they violated international law. They had an obligation to protect our people.
Exactly.
But they refused to do
Precisely.
so. Mr. Lugun.
I think it's quite provocative, but how we counsel that we learn from it and see how we can develop local capacity. For South Africa, I hope they learn to migrate from violence and xenophobic tendencies. Between February and June 2026, Germany deported about 137 Nigerians. No xenophobic attack or anything. Germany has developed a system that if you don't fit in here, we get you to where you may be able to stand.
They were deported for crimes, not for being
a different kind, yes. Yeah, but so they did not approach it from the angle of fighting them, protesting and all those.
The premise is different. If you are against someone just because of who they are as a person, it's very different than someone who gets arrested as a jail.
But South Africans also have their argument. There are some of these persons they do not want in their environment are not complying with the laws of the land. So I'm just comparing that. The lesson Nigeria should learn should be to look in the direction of Ghana. We also asked Ghana to go around 1983 or thereabout. And Ghana learned from it, swallowed that pain, and decided to start building local capacity. So where will South Africa get the money from Nigeria or some other African countries right now? I think it's provocative, and that is why some will say that maybe the government should have listened to Senator Shomole and his counsel, but again, that may be counterproductive. So by and large, I think on the scale of sustainability, how can Nigeria come to the point where her citizens will not be subjected to different kinds of ridicule across the globe? And that's my main concern, and because South Africa may continue to taunt us. Yes, we helped them come out of the apartheid situation. That was many years ago. In fact, by now, we should have gone so far ahead. And that is my concern.
Okay, let's take a football subject.
I personally feel that the Supreme Court was wrong in that the Supreme Court does not exist to make laws. Yeah. It exists to interpret laws. Mm-hmm. The best way, it was the last point, the suggestion you made, that is, go and amend the Constitution, Section 162, so that joint accounting will no longer be there, and then you'll be free to, ensure that local government gets their money directly. As long as that provision is still there. What were they interpreting? They were trying to usurp the function of, the lawmakers. And there is no other way. Lawyers they may be squeamish, they may be finicky about, they don't want to say the Supreme Court is wrong, but we are not lawyers. Exactly. And we are not idiots. Yes. It was a wrong, that's why they can't enforce. Isn't it an embarrassment now to the Supreme Court that it made the ruling that nobody can enforce? I agree with you can't enforce it. It's unenforceable. So where they ought to have started from, which is go and amend that section so that the local councils can get their money directly. But again, there's also a problem in that, which is it now becomes local councils to federal government. In fact, how to prevail on the states to ensure that local government get their money is actually the neatest approach. Local governments, 774, they only get 20%, 20.8 something percent of the money. The states get 26.7 something percent. So states are just 36, local government 774.
When you add administrative charges that the state governments also put on it, they even get more than this.
Exactly. So
they add administrative charges.
Yes. The best way is to just prevail. 36 of you get 26% of the total amount. That's already enough. Let the local government get their money. To prevail on them it will remove this issue of trying to hijack. It will remove this issue of the contradiction of federalism and all the rest of it. That is just the best way. Every other...
In some states, the states help the local councils to spend the money.
No, that is just what virtually all the states. But they just give the local governments what they think.
Just to pay something.
Yes, just to think is right for them. And that's it. That shouldn't be the case. So the gentlemanly thing actually is to get the states to do what they are expected to do so that, this debate as to whether they should get money directly and all that will not be. Finally, on the case of certificate, that's forged or no forged and all that. Yeah, the position of the law, I agree with Barrister Okmuye. It will be difficult for Article to achieve his objective because the objective from what was filed in court is to disqualify President Tinubu. But like Barrister Logan also said, there is the ethical aspect of it and then the psychological aspect of it. That our president said we don't even know who he is, we don't even know whether he's safe and all that. It could get some people to to vote him. But beyond that, I also think something is wrong with the law, which states that it is only within the party that you can challenge. When you are contesting, whether you win or lose affects candidates of other party.
Affects citizens.
Yes. So why must it be only people within that political party that it can matter to? when we're talking about issue of forgery. And then the embarrassing last amendment to the Electoral Act, which says it's not something that we how do they call it now? Judiciable. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When the elections are over. Yeah. I mean, issue of forgery, and we're in another breath in the Constitution, forgery is a criminal offense. I mean, these are things that both the legislature, all the arms of government should clean up, so we can have a process that we can be proud of.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Awurawo.